after show. Thank you so much, Comic Fam. This is the part of the show where I am so excited to get to.
This is cameras off, voice only.
What you don't know is that there's a garbage truck that is making so much noise, and we had to just stop every couple seconds. But you know what? We're going to keep on going because we're super excited about Marvel Plus, but not because there's all these new shows. Like, guys, how often are we talking about these new shows?
A lot.
Everyone's specking on these new shows. We got Moon Knight, we got Devil Dinosaur, She-Hulk. I'm super stoked about. But something that's gone completely under the radar until this past week, and that has just been tweeted by Disney Plus, their Disney Plus Updates Twitter profile. They're saying that they're going to be bringing the cartoons, the portfolio of cartoons that we all grew up on, to Disney Plus. And I think this is something very important that we need to discuss.
Yeah, I love the fact that we're getting an instant library of all these cartoons that we grew up with. And not just me, not just you, but generationally speaking, I mean, we're going to have stuff from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and on and on.
In my head, when I hear Marvel cartoons, I think of the 90s Spider-Man. I think of the 90s X-Men.
And we're getting both of those.
We're getting both of those, but you're also getting like Fantastic Four. There's Silver Surfer. There's an Incredible Hulk series. There's a 90s Iron Man series. There's like several different Spider-Man cartoons.
I want to talk about like how these related to us as kids, like how these impacted us in our youth. But I also want to discuss about how this is going to be impacting the comic book community, because low key it's going under the radar. No one's thinking about how the 90s X-Men run is going to impact comics. And I just wanted to share my story about how I was introduced to Gambit. I wasn't introduced to Gambit because of the X-Men comics. I was introduced to Gambit because of the cartoon. He became my favorite X-Men character all throughout my adolescence when I watched this show. I used to have the playing cards. I used to run around. I'd set up like the couch cushions. I'd stack them up, kick them down. You know, I have a ruler, pretend like that was my staff, and I'd throw playing cards around. Like, I became a diehard Gambit fan because of this show. And that's what these cartoons are going to offer the community. We're going to have a ton of kids getting into characters that we're likely not going to see on the screen for quite some time.
That's true. I think that cartoon made me a Cyclops fan. That's like the best portrayal of Cyclops they've ever had, and that doesn't make him look like a little punk.
Oh, absolutely, man. It's like one of my biggest frustrations with the X-Men movies is that they made him look like this just crappy character.
He's got to be the dork to Wolverine's cool dude who always gets the chick.
Dude, he is the leader of the X-Men.
No, man, Wolverine, man, he's the cool one. Everyone loves Wolverine. We got to make him the front and center character.
Dude, if Wolverine led the X-Men, they would have all been killed long before he kills them in the future.
Right. Yeah. Spoiler alert. That's okay. That's old news.
I mean, I remember the intro of this X-Men 92. I mean, it's a great like track of music, and then the way all the X-Men are jumping and coming into scene. I mean, it gets you right away.
That's one of like the most powerful opening credit sequences of like all time. Like any TV show.
I remember for me, it was growing up with Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, okay? And that was with Stan Lee's voice over.
Yeah, that's right.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was like his voice on screen. I didn't even know who he was, but that instilled in me his voice and who he was. As I got older, I got to appreciate that more. But that intro is fantastic. For me, it's fantastic because I just remember with Iceman and Firestar and Spider-Man, they're all just swinging in, and this big demon that he frees. I mean, and then Spider-Man comes flying in and like shatters this ice demon or this fire demon that Iceman just froze. I mean, it was just such a cool experience as a kid growing up watching.
All these kids are gonna be listening to Stan Lee talk again. It's gonna be dope.
It's kind of like how in the Silver Age, you know, Stan Lee was all over, you know, the back pages and talking to you in the comic books, and now he's talking to you in the cartoon.
That's right.
It's very, very appropriate.
I'm excited. And these aren't the only ones that are hitting the screen. I mean, there's another tweet that they put out there that, again, has gone under the radar, but they have a lineup here. Take a look at this. It says, Disney Plus posted, nobody is saying anything. We're saying our ideal afternoon schedule is 3 p.m. DuckTales, 3:30 p.m. Chippendales Rescue Rangers, 4 p.m. Tailspin, 4:30 Darkwing Duck.
I loved this block of cartoons growing up. Like, that was the block. You had DuckTales, you had Chip and Dale and Rescue Rangers, you had Baloo and Kit. Kit the cloud kicker. He used to surf on clouds. He held a rope behind him, and he would surf on clouds. It was the coolest thing. And Darkwing Duck is just awesome as well. I mean, that was a great block of cartoons growing up.
I'm excited, man. And this is something that you can't quantify. You really can't. You can't tell the impact that this is going to have on generations to come. And I think it's important to point that out.
The Disney princess cartoons are getting a lot more publicity than any of this stuff is. Like it's weird to think about that. Like you said, the future impact this is going to have on the youths. Like they're gonna have this as an option because they're all gonna beg their parents to get Disney Plus, and now they're gonna have all of this backlog content just there for them to get the right kind of material for their childhood. I'm very ecstatic.
I wonder what other Gambit fans are going to be born out of these 90s cartoons. Like, again, it's exciting times. Jeff, you have to share the story about Batman 1. This is true. It is nuts. And I'm stoked that you're willing to share it.
Yeah, I mean, this is his 80th anniversary, so I don't generally talk about some books I have, but I'll talk about this Batman 1. So in 2015, I had a partnership with a friend of mine in Cloud9 Comics, and I bought a copy of Batman 1. And when I looked at it, it's one of those moments where I just knew. I was like, there's no way this book is not going to shoot up in value, and here's my only opportunity right now to buy this. It was not cheap, okay? It wasn't cheap. But I told the guys I was buying it, I was like, man, I'm buying this, but I'm going to tell you in about a year and a half, this book's going to double or even triple. All right. I told him, and he's just like, well, maybe I shouldn't sell it to you. He's like, yeah, maybe not, but I'm buying it now.
You were honest.
I was honest with him. And sure enough, in 9 months, it tripled.
How did it triple?
How did it triple? I mean, like, I watched every major grail go up in value. I mean, you had Action 1 go up. You had More Fun Comics 73. I mean, you had all these major keys going up, and Superman 1. And I was like, how is Batman 1? Okay. First appearance of Joker. First appearance of Catwoman. Okay. Batman in his own title. Okay. Like, how does that not shoot up? And it just stayed stagnant. And so in that year, I bought this copy for myself, and then we acquired 2 other copies as a team together. Okay. And in 2000,
so that's 3 Batman ones.
3 Batman ones in that year. All right. And we pushed the market so hard on that book that we were the ones setting the numbers and pushing it. And we were selling them to auction houses who were then pushing it. We saw the growth in the market. And we had, like I said, 3 that year. And I'm telling you, man, we helped spike that book. And then since then, it's just been going through the roof.
That's crazy. And there's so much risk involved with something like that. Like you were confident, but what happens if there's a recession during that time? What happens if there's a mass fallout during that time? Like, who knows? Like, comics do fluctuate, but man, when you get it right, though, the payoff is huge.
Yeah, the payoff is huge. And there's a lot of risk. You're right, because you have to know the book. You have to know where it came from. You have to be able to detect if there's any issues, such as missing pages,
Ooh,
restorations.
It raw?
They were all raw.
Oh, wow.
The one I bought was graded.
Okay, yeah.
The one I bought for myself was graded. The other 2 were, one of them was graded by actually another third-party company, but we had to take that out and regrade it, and you just never know when you do that.
My goodness, that must have been so stressful.
It was stressful getting that book back. One particular book went through a lot of hoops, but eventually it came back the way it was supposed to come as we expected it. Okay, I don't want to get into too many details because it involves third parties and conversations and whatever. But that worked out.
You hear this, comic fan? You're getting some insight here. I just want to reiterate. Thank you for joining us on the after show, because this is where the really big news comes out. Go ahead.
Yeah, like when we're talking on that high end, there's a lot of stress to it. You have to put a lot out to get either little in, or hopefully a lot in. But you always have to be very wary. There's always that horror story where even though you think you might know everything, you're gonna miss stuff occasionally. So you have to really know where that book came from and trust the source. That's a huge part of it. Okay, if you know that this was originally found and this person himself had it graded, then you can generally find out or have a feeling that this book is legitimate and there's nothing wrong with it. Okay, but you don't always know the backstory. It's been passed around a few times. Some family member had another family member, or I bought it from a comic dealer in 1978. Okay, and back in the day, they used to color touch comics. It was okay. It was not what it is now.
Right.
All right. It made the book look better. It wasn't as frowned upon as it is these days.
Is there any fallback plan for those types of deals? Like when you're dealing with that much money, or is it when that money trades hands, you're kissing that goodbye?
Just depends who you're buying it from. If you're buying it from a legitimate dealer who's selling it raw, and he can then you trust him enough to where he will stand by his word. Mm-hmm. And there are those dealers. There are also a lot that are not. then you got to kind of pick and choose your risk. You're buying it from some Joe Schmo online who you don't know.
Good luck.
You gotta be careful. And once that money leaves, especially when you do a friends and family payment on PayPal.
Oh my goodness.
That feels like an in-person transaction. You don't want to be doing that kind of stuff online, I would think.
No.
You want to look them in the eye when you make that transaction.
No, a lot of big deals are going to be in person. Sure. I've flown around this country making big deals in person because you just don't want to deal with you want this thing in your hands and you want to count these pages because that person's going to tell you, oh yeah, that's near mint. No, it's not.
I'll be the judge of that.
Oh yeah. Oh, no, that's not married. Or the book's complete. I remember that with Cap 1. I just mentioned that last week. Right. I almost bought a Cap 1, but it's like I had to fly and see it because it was a lot of money. And sure enough, the centerfold is married. The guy wouldn't believe me. I had to send it into CGC. I was like, I will send this into CGC. I will pay for it. Okay. If it comes back unmarried, I will buy the book. If it does, I'm not buying it. Okay. And sure enough, they verified it's married. I mean, it was obvious. Okay.
Wow.
The guy didn't believe me. And he didn't want to budge on his price. He's like, that's what I want for it. Don't even care.
Can I ask
and
what
I did
married
not buy
means?
it.
What's married?
Oh, married is when you take a piece from one book and you take it and put it into another book to complete it.
But it's from the same book.
So this Cap 1 had a centerfold from another Cap 1. It wasn't from the original one. You can tell because the staples will not generally align with that copy versus another. So the staple alignment for the centerfold was off in comparison to the original book. So when you slide it in, you can tell, oh, the staple strike on the cover is here, but the staple strike on the centerfold is different. So that's one way to tell. All right, and that's generally how you would do it. Or page quality might be different on the centerfold. Let's say you have a light tan centerfold, yet the pages on the book are off-white. Like, you're not going to... They are not the same book, right? They came from different places. So there's little things you tell to learn on how to tell if a cover is married, centerfold, trimmed, not trimmed. So there's a lot to it, guys. But that was a great year, 2015. I wish we never sold any of the Batman ones, but we did because we had to because it's expensive to get in. And that was a cool time, man. I got to tell you, watching like your gut instinct actually like come true.
Pay off, man.
Yeah, and I kept that Batman one. That's like a grail book for me.
You're always gonna keep it?
Yeah, I'm always gonna keep it. I mean, I'll hand it down to the kiddos one day, unless I need to sell, unless something else comes up. Hey, Tech 27. Like if I have to sell something to get to, and even Tech 27 isn't like a big grail book for me. Like it's a cool book, and it's more rare than Action Comics 1. It's a harder book to get for a lot of people. Granted, the value isn't as high as Action 1, but I think it feels like it's catching up. Not to say that it ever will surpass, but it is a harder book. But like for me, Cap 1, Marvel Comics 1, I said this last week, All American Comics 16, those are like the big grails for me. And I'll be excited to get those one day. Hopefully just find it because to pony up for those books now, it's just, oh my God.
I appreciate you sharing that story, man. It's good stuff. And if Comic Fam, if you appreciate this kind of conversation, whatever platform you're on, I think you can do it on Stitcher and iTunes. I believe SoundCloud and Spotify don't even have a rating system, but whatever platform you're on and you do have a rating system, please provide us with a rating. It does so much for the show. We'd really appreciate it.
Don't forget to you can always go back to the YouTube video and leave a comment there if you really want to let us know about something from the audio portion, because I'm kind of blown away. I just sat here and listened to that whole story and offered zero input, and I'm still like shaking in my boots. That's a very terrifying level of being in this game,
right?
That I don't want to be in quite yet. I'm not anywhere near that level.
Yeah, you should not jump into that level. I tell people all the time, if you're just getting into Golden Age, it's very, very important you trust somebody to give you the guidance, because it's hard to jump in with both feet on that without some knowledge and some guidance, because it's very easy to overpay for stuff.
Yeah, get burned.
And just get burned, right?
Yeah. Thanks, Comic Fam. We do appreciate your time, and we'll see you next Sunday.